Have you ever wondered just what is a roundabout? Where did they come from? And why are they popping up everywhere all of the sudden? Well, luckily for you, in this journey titled Roundabouts, Friend or Foe, we'll be taking a look at all of the important information that you need to know about roundabouts and just what they're doing in our cities. So sit back, relax, and let us do all of the thinking. Our goal here at the Information Network is to give you, the viewer, the best idea of just what those in charge hope to accomplish in changing the foundations of your roads. Because as we all know, you can't always trust everything you see or hear, which is why it's our job to give it to you straight. Now, you may have seen various statements put out by your city or state leadership claiming that interest and support of roundabouts is growing, but is that really the case? Or is it just something you assume was true because it was told to you? An important factor in analyzing whether something should be taken as truth is whether or not you have all the facts, which is what you'll get right here in this very program. We certainly are not here to tell you what to think or how to feel regarding roundabouts, but merely to take into perspective all of the factors that might help you come to the conclusion. So, without further ado, let's start with the history and the basis of how roundabouts work. The very first roundabout that was built, that of course we know about, was built in the United Kingdom in the 1960s. This design was an adaptation of the traffic circles that are often found in Europe, and, of course, the United Kingdom, which is where they began popping up before making their way to the United States. Now, the basic function of the roundabout is similar to traffic circles, where oncoming traffic enters the already flowing traffic that's coming around the circle, and then exits where they need to. But in the case of roundabouts, it's slightly different, as roundabouts are usually smaller and rely on the key principle of the driver entering the circle yielding to the traffic that is already in the roundabout. This is just one place where there could become issues, as we have probably all seen. There are plenty of drivers out there who are not too fond of yielding to others. Now, there are various issues that are presented when dealing with roundabouts, and these can include an actual slowing of traffic due to congestion within the roundabout itself, or a slowing of traffic because some, random driver is confused about how roundabouts work and decides to stop in the middle to figure things out. All of these factors have actually shown to increase the risk of accidents, as there are more unpredictable factors that might appear within a roundabout than a traditional intersection. This, of course, is all to say that maybe roundabouts aren't just the perfect solution that everyone is telling us they are. With that being said, let's take a look at our case study. In this mini-documentary, we'll be taking a look at the city of Conway, Arkansas as our primary evaluee. As it is known for its numerous roundabouts, the city leadership's passion for the new intersections. This passion obviously coming from the proud stature city leadership takes when referring to their pet projects, as they're so called, which they only intend to add more of. Now, let's look at some reports and articles that were put out regarding roundabouts and their reception within the community, in Conway and abroad. First, we have a roundabout public opinion survey from the state of Washington. That's Washington, United States, not Washington, D.C. It claims that after driving in roundabouts, 63% of individuals are in favor of them, whereas only 15% strongly oppose them. Now, why is it, do you think, that they would phrase their results this way? They claimed that initially people were against them, but after being exposed to the roundabouts, they were actually in favor. Alright, but why are the other 15% so strongly opposed? And why is there no middle group in between the two? Certainly a conundrum if there ever was one. And of course, we'll address this again later on, but for now, let's move on to our next piece. Next, we have a statement from our very own city of Conway, with which they announce the results of their Roundabout Community Survey and Feasibility Study. All of that to say, they simply looked at how roundabouts are doing within the city and what people think about them, as well as what they're affecting. But what is interesting is they say the roundabouts do not pose any significant risk. But further down in the report, they list the number of accidents at each intersection, which they say the CPD did not have the specifics of each crash, so it is not clear if these crashes could have been prevented by roundabouts. Interesting. It seems as if the city of Conway may just be jumping to conclusions as to whether or not their roundabouts really work as they say they do, or maybe at least they want you to come to that conclusion. They also cite in this report that roundabouts, quote, typically reduce the number of crashes by lowering speeds, but unfortunately, that isn't necessarily true. Other sources, as previously stated, have claimed that roundabouts could actually increase the number of, quote, fender benders. So, which is it, Conway? Personally, I have experienced more close calls in terms of accidents in roundabouts than I have traditional intersections, leading me to disbelieve some of these statistics that are put out by the city. It is also interesting to note that they do not cite whether or not the number of crashes at the intersections were higher or lower than before these roundabouts were implemented. If you're thinking this seems all a little too shady to believe, you would be right to think that. But nonetheless, let's move on to our Big Papa topic, as they say. Carmel, Indiana. This town has been implementing roundabouts since the 1990s, and it is essentially the staple of their community, almost as if it's an identifier. Carmel, Indiana has stated via the city's website that they are now up to 125 roundabouts, more than any other city in the United States. The first statement you see on the site regarding roundabouts reads, "Roundabouts move traffic more efficiently and reduce the number of fatalities and serious injury accidents. They work because of their safety record, their compatibility with the environment, their aesthetics, and their ability to make it easier for pedestrians and bicyclists to navigate." But, much like we saw with Conway, that isn't necessarily true. They also state that accidents have been reduced by 80% there within their town. And yet, as stated by the city of Conway, there are many different factors to be considered when determining the effects of various intersections. So, why would they make such a bold, yet obviously flawed statement? Is there something they have to gain, or is there an ulterior motive? We might find that later, but for now, let's move on. Coming back to Little Conway, we interviewed a couple of local residents to see how they felt about the changes and what it meant for them. One of our interviewees is a local real estate agent, while the other is a dispatcher for Conway Police Department, both with integral positions that rely on Conway's road systems, which means we might just find some contrarian opinions.
My name is Kimberly Ward, and I'm a real estate agent in Conway. I have been in Conway for 30 plus years. Came here when I was in college, seeing the traffic and the population just grow exponentially to where we had to do things for our streets to make it to where you can get, across town. It's gotten to where it could take you almost as long to get from Conway to Little Rock to get from the west side of Conway just to the interstate. The traffic is pretty bad if you're on the west side of Conway. But with the addition of roundabouts and additional streets and bridges being put in, it has made the traffic flow a lot better. Well, they're doing a pretty good job about putting out on their Twitter feed and on Facebook proposed plans. I know, I think next Thursday night they're having a informal, the Arkansas Department of Transportation along with the city is having an informal meeting to talk about how to eliminate some of the traffic congestion that's over on West Dave Ward from Harkrider to the interstate. And they're talking about possible roundabouts or things there that can help. Now, that would go right into going over the bridge into the double roundabouts that are over by Lewis Crossing. I love those roundabouts, but a lot of people do not like them. A lot of people are confused. A lot of people coming from out of town don't know how to navigate those. I think there might have been more accidents than people thought there should be. But statistically, they say that the impact is not as bad. But there are people that are more afraid of roundabouts or don't know how to navigate them, especially if they're going the wrong way in the roundabout. And that has happened. I've seen that physically myself. It's been a mixture. When they first came out, a lot of people did not like them because I think a lot of people did not understand them, did not know how to navigate them. But as time has gone on, I think people have seen how it has eliminated a lot of the traffic. And I think the younger population does not fear them or see them as, a concerning issue. They adapt very easily. I get frustrated when people are extremely cautious coming and navigating the roundabouts. But I also get frustrated when people don't think how to use the roundabout or know the proper roundabout etiquette in that. With stoplights, I think it's just what we've always grown up with and what you are trained to drive and how to you wait. It's just something that you have been taught, so you just assume that's the way it is. I don't know that it's affected the market from a standpoint. I think the market's more affected by the things the city has to offer. And I don't know that roundabouts have given them that edge other than when it's hit traffic, it can move quicker. Do I think roundabouts add more value to a neighborhood or make it more appealing? Most of the roundabouts are not necessarily near neighborhoods. Now, there is one that's over by a neighborhood that they meant for it to slow down traffic. I really don't know that it's done that so much because sometimes, people can just kind of go over the roundabout if they want to jump it,
I'm Kaylee. I work for the Conway Police Department as a public safety telecommunicator, and I've been there for about a year and a half. So being a public telecommunicator, we see a lot of what's going on in the city. We dispatch police and fire as well as answer 911 and non-emergency calls. We have a lot of people in the city, and it's almost not big enough to hold the amount of people that we have here. So we do have a lot of accidents every day. The city's working on trying to improve the roads, but it's a long process, and they're doing the best that they can to try to accommodate the amount of people that are in the city. We have a lot of busy roads, and there's just not enough room for everybody that works here and that lives here. So they're trying to do the best that they can with the amount of people that we have and how it's growing. I do think it's hard for people to use roundabouts. If they have never done it before, it's kind of difficult for them to learn. I think the drivers in Conway are not very good. I think there's just because there's so many people that live here and traffic is so heavy, especially during the rush hour, traffic can get a little bad and drivers can get a little crazy.
Well, hopefully those interviews gave you at least a more in-depth view into what the population really thinks about roundabouts. And what you have to do is determine for yourself, do you follow along with the people? Do you think differently? How do you feel about the information being presented to you about your roads and your communities? And hopefully, this documentary has helped provide you with more information on how you can make that decision and what really may be some intentions behind, we won't call it propaganda, because there's no way to know if it is. But if it was, you should probably be careful. Anyways, that's going to do it for our short-length feature here on the Information Channel, as it is our goal to inform you and educate you on what's going on in the world around you. Be sure to stay informed, pay attention, keep your ear to the ground, and stay woke. This documentary was brought to you by the Stoplight Gang.